Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3, back with another kicking movie reaction review. You know I love Universal Horror. I've done some Universal Horror recently. I reviewed a bunch of Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi co-starred films. And today we're doing one of the top-tier horror classic films, and probably one of the top-tier classic films of all time, The Invisible Man from 1933. It is a sci-fi horror film. Hour and 12 minutes, so it's not that long. If you would like to stream it, it is available for purchase. You have to purchase it to stream it on YouTube, Google Play Movies and TV, Amazon Prime Video, and Vudu. Much more expensive on Vudu than everywhere else. They're all $3.99 except Vudu, which is $14.99. 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb, 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, and an 87% Metacritic. And 87% of Google users like the film. Its release date was November 13th, 1933. Directed by my second favorite director of all time, James Whale. Very tragic, the tragic James Whale. Adapted from H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man. And the film series is the Universal Horror, Universal Monsters lineup. The budget was about $300,000 US. And I'll give you a quick read-up here. While researching a new drug, Dr. Jack Griffin stumbles on a potion that can make him invisible. When he reveals his new ability to his old mentor, it's actually his old co-worker, because it's not really his mentor. He reveals it to his co-worker, who reveals it to his mentor. His old mentor and his fiancée. It's clear that the side effect of the potion is insanity. Jack goes on a violent rampage, and the police struggle to hunt him down, unable to see their targets, while his mentor and his former partner desperately try to devise a plan to capture him. You know, I haven't seen this movie since high school. This is my first time watching it since high school. For Christmas 2020, I bought myself a huge stack of, like, 30s to 50s movies I was missing, and one of them was the Invisible Man Legacy Collection. So yes, I will be reviewing all the Invisible Man films from Universal, all the classic ones, in order. I definitely recommend the Legacy Collection set. For the price of one movie, you get the entire series, which is several films. It's a very good film. I remember in high school I had a friend who had it on VHS, and we watched it, and it was so good. Oh, I loved it in high school, and then I never watched it again until today. I know, as big a Universal horror fan that I've been all these years, it's baffling that I'm just now getting my own copy. It really, really is. But the Invisible Man is also the quote-unquote monster that I'm least interested in out of all the Universal horror monsters. So it makes sense that I got his last. But yeah, so I'm going to give you some actors real quick. Claude Rains plays Jack Griffin. I love Claude Rains, very talented. Gloria Stewart plays Flora Cranley. William Harrigan plays Dr. Arthur Kemp. Henry Travers plays Dr. Cranley. Una O'Connor, of course Una O'Connor's in a James Whale film. Jenny Hall, Forrester Harvey as Mr. Hall, and E.E. Clive as Constable Jaffas. Yeah, Claude Rains is great in this. I actually hear that Claude Rains was cast because of his voice. James Whale, since the character's face wouldn't be seen until the very, 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 very last seconds of the movie, wanted someone with a really strong voice. And the thing about that is Claude Rains has actually gone through, like, intensive speech therapy his whole life up to this point, because he was born with a very heavy speech impediment. So he went through a lot of training and a lot of therapy and stuff to get his voice right, and that's why he has such a bold, unique voice. And it paid off, because he's in one of the most classic films of all time, The Invisible Man, starring role, top billed. Well, he's not top billed on the poster for some reason, but he's top billed on everything else. So he kind of is trying to find a cure for the invisibility. And at first it seems like I want to cure myself and be normal again, but then it turns out he wants to be able to turn invisible and remove the invisibility at will so that he can commit tons of crimes and rule the world. I doubt one invisible man could rule the world. Later he gets a better plan, which is, you know, perfect the formula and cure, and then sell it to, and then like have the nations of the world bid on it and sell it to them so they can have an invisible army. But the invisibility in the film is not perfect. Like he has this scene where he's kind of trying to force his old co-worker, they were both lab assistants, into like teaming up with him because he needs a visible partner. And he's like, you can't be around me for an hour after I eat because you'll see the food in my belly. I don't know why they wouldn't see the poop in him, but apparently they can see the food in him. But no drink? They can't see drink in him? I don't know. I don't get it. But he's also like, you have to clean my feet because to be totally invisible, I have to be naked, etc., etc. He's like, I can't go out in the rain or snow or soot or ash. Not even fog. I can't go out in any of those things because then they'll be able to clearly see me. I can't, like, he has to keep dirt out from under his fingernails because even that would be very visible. Like, he makes sounding invisible seem like it's not that good. And eventually it's not even the scientists that figure out a clever way to catch him. It's the police. The police just catch him. They just catch him. In the end, like this farmer finds him sleeping in the hay. He can hear him snoring and he can see the hay rustling. So he reports it to the police, and the police are giving out like a $1,000 reward. It's actually a different currency than dollars. I just don't remember what it was. Marks, maybe? I don't know. And then they're like, if we catch him, you'll get the reward. And then the other cops are like, how are we supposed to catch him? And they're like, I know, we'll set the barn on fire and drive him out into the snow. And if I was the farmer, I'd be like, fucking excuse me? You're gonna set my barn on fire? That's his livelihood. But hopefully he can build a new one with those, like, 1,000 francs. Like, this dude did his civic duty by turning in the Invisible Man, and then then they fuck him up. So funny. And speaking of funny, I've actually heard arguments for this film possibly being the first horror comedy. I don't necessarily agree with that. James Whale just likes to put comedy in his movies. He's a very lighthearted filmmaker, or he was. You remember Bride of Frankenstein had a lot of comedic beats to it as well. I'd call Bride of Frankenstein a horror comedy before I called The Invisible Man a horror comedy. He does, like, he seems to revel in it, and he pulls a lot of pranks. Like, this film goes from The Invisible Man pulling a bunch of pranks. He throws a man's hat in the river. That's funny. He pushes a man on a bicycle down. Ha ha! Pranks! It's just a prank, bro. Then he derails a train. What? It escalates so fast! And he's like casually committing murder, and he really goes insane because the chemical that he used to make himself invisible, combined with other chemicals of course, causes insanity. But he didn't know that when he used it because he read a bunch of British studies on it, and only the Germans did studies on it that showed the insanity causing traits of the chemical. So there's a reason the chemical wasn't used anymore, but he didn't know that, and so he injected himself with it a bunch until he turned invisible, and then there he was. But now I want to talk about the effects in this film. They're spectacular. Like, I remember when I first watched this movie in high school, I was like, how did they do some of these effects in 1933? They actually used kind of a black matte system, because like a middle schooler could do a lot of these effects in the modern day. Maybe not as well as they were done in this movie, but they, like, green screen, you know, green screen, you can do an Invisible Man so easily, right? So, we get, like, you know, this kind of great matte technique to show him as invisible. We also get, like, wire frames and clothing, and we, of course, get, like, stuff moving around on strings. We got a lot of great fluid string movement on things in this film. They worked incredibly hard on these effects. Carl Laemmle Jr., you produced a damn good film. It was incredible. The acting was good. The story was fun. I loved it. The Invisible Man from 1933 is a top-tier horror film. To modern audiences, this wouldn't be that scary. Like, very scary at all. It was probably one of the less scary of the Universal things. This film has a lot of rip-offs. Like, a lot of rip-offs. We reviewed The Amazing Transparent Man a while back, which was like a sci-fi crime drama rip-off of The Invisible Man that I actually really liked. Definitely check out The Amazing Transparent Man. I think it's public domain. But yeah, I really liked The Invisible Man 1933, one of the classic Universal horror, Universal monster films. Definitely check it out. The Legacy Collection, I think, is the best option because for the price of one film, for the price of one DVD, you get all those movies. So that's it. Thank you all very much for the support. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe. Check out all the cool links in the description below. And I'll see you all next time.